Are you thinking about trading traffic for tractors, crowded neighborhoods for wide open spaces? Well, in today's video, we're going to be looking at properties 25 to 35 minutes outside of Lexington where you'll be able to plant, grow, and raise some of your own food. Look at multi-generational living for extended families. Raise your kids with room to roam, and this video is going to be for you. So stick with us. We're going to get to it right now. Why are families moving out of the city? We're seeing more and more people that are interested in buying property, maybe a little bit farther out of town. They want to have their own land. So why is it? Why are families deciding to move out of the city? The first reason that we found is the lower cost of living. Generally, when you move outside of the city limits of Lexington, you get into lower taxes, you get less restrictions, maybe you can have chickens and grow your own food, and so this saves so much money. And the cost of living in a smaller town, we've looked at this over and over in some of our other videos, so please go back and watch some of those. We'll try to link those here. But the cost of living is one of the main reasons that people are choosing to move out of the city. The second reason people are moving is due to space for multi-generational living. More and more families are choosing to live together, whether that be for grandparents or aunts and uncles to help raise children, or maybe your parents are getting older and you want to have them living inside the home with you. These are some of the reasons that people are really starting to look into multi-generational living. Another reason is due to access to the local farms and local markets, and also just a small town charm. People are really wanting to experience life in a slower pace, and that kind of leads us to the next tip, which is lower crime rates and just a slower pace of life. People are really looking to enjoy life, more outdoor time, less time spent indoors. One of the last reasons that we're hearing from our clients that are moving in from all different areas of the country is due to room that you can get here, the room for animals and gardening, and room for just small scale farming. There's becoming more and more interest into growing some of your own livestock, not 50, 60 acre full-blown dairy farms, but just being able to have a small plot of land to grow your own gardening, have your own gardening, and to maybe have some chickens. So these are some of the reasons that people are beginning to move out of the city. Why is Kentucky becoming such a hot spot for beginning homesteaders? We're going to look at some of those reasons. One of the first things that we're finding is people are moving into the central Kentucky area due to the longer growing climate. We are in the 7A zone, so if you want to look that up, that'll tell you how long it takes to grow things here, like tomatoes, cucumbers, watermelon, cantaloupe, all the different things that people love to grow here in the spring and summertime. And we do have that longer growing season, so it is an ideal area for people to move into. Another reason people are moving is due to the mild climate. Now, we've talked time and time again about the weather here in central Kentucky. So we do experience all four seasons. We do have winters here. We do have springtime and fall, but we do have a nice long summer season where it gives lots of time for growing. So having the four different seasons is very attractive for people. Typically, if you've lived in the down south and you don't really experience the springtime or the fall and it's just a lot of hot weather, people really want to get away from some of that heat, and being able to come into the central Kentucky area to get to experience all four seasons is very attractive. Another reason people are coming into this area is due to the affordable land. When I see some of the land prices maybe in other states, whether it be out in the West, Midwest, or up in the Northeast, it's very expensive to own even 4, 5, 6 acres of land. And we're going to take a look at that. So stick with us. We're going to look at 6 or 8 different pieces of property that have at least 5 acres. And we're going to give you lots of different price ranges so that you can get an idea of what you can get if you move into the central Kentucky area looking for more property to grow maybe one of these homestead areas. And really, we've talked in the past about how hard it is to build houses and to have land in this area, but the friendly zoning in most of the rural areas here in central Kentucky does make it so much easier for people who are wanting to come in to central Kentucky and build multi-generational properties where they could have grandparents or aunts and uncles or brothers or even other family and friends that they would like to have on their property. So these are some of the reasons that people are choosing to move into the central Kentucky area. Now, what are some of the top tips for people who are just beginning to think about homesteading or maybe even just having a larger plot of land? What are some of the things that you need to really think about and focus on? And the first thing that I found out is people really need to check for water. What type of water is accessible in the area that you want to live? Most places here in central Kentucky have city water, but there are occasional properties, depending on how far out of town you go, that you might be on well water or have to have water brought in. So this is something very important for you to decide and to determine before you buy a property. The next thing is you need to look for properties with existing barns and or fences, because these are expensive things to add. And so if you're thinking about livestock, you're going to need to have fencing on your property, and having a barn is going to make it so much easier to get your, maybe if you have a tractor or different implements that you need to use for whatever homestead property that you're wanting, you're going to need to have that barn. So having that already on the property is going to save you a lot of money. The next thing you're going to want to do, depending on what town you decide to purchase a property, is you're going to need to look at the local regulations for livestock. You know, are there any restrictions about having cattle? Are there restrictions for chickens or pigs or whatever it is that you want to have? You need to check out to see if there are any restrictions on some of those things. And the last tip I wanted to talk about is just joining some Facebook groups or different local homesteading groups for Kentucky. That'll help answer lots and lots of questions for you going forward. If you have questions about a certain area, getting on a Facebook group and asking those questions will help alleviate a lot of problems. So these are some great tips if this is what you're thinking about doing. Be sure to like, subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications so you'll be the first ones to know about all the market changes here in the Lexington, Central Kentucky area. Now we're going to talk about some of the must-haves for people who are moving out of the city and into the country. These are things that you may or may not think about. So let's talk about them. The very first thing that you need to think about is internet access. No matter how far you want to be out in the country and maybe away from neighborhoods and people, we all need access to the internet. And so that's going to be one of the top things that you're going to need to look into. Most of the communities here in Central Kentucky do have fiber and other high-speed internet, but depending on how far you live out into the county, you're going to need to check on that before you look into a property in that area. One of the next things that you're going to need to look at, especially if you have children, is what are the school options there? How do the local public schools measure up to what it is that you want for your children? Maybe you're not looking into public school. You want to see what type of private schools are available. So you need to check those out. Or if you are already homeschooling or interested in homeschooling, you'd want to check into what co-ops are available in the area to see if that meets the needs of you and your children. So school options are a very important first step into determining what area you want to move into. And the last must-have that we want to talk about is a reliable vehicle. So many people come in and they think about getting into a bigger, lot, maybe 5, 10 acres. You're going to really need to think about having some type of all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive vehicle, maybe some type of truck. You're going to need to think about that as far as having animals, moving animals, putting in fences, all those things. So these are some of the must-haves that you need to think about before you consider moving to the country. We're going to talk about 3 different areas today here in Central Kentucky. When we get into my computer, I want to show you what areas are close by, within 25 to 35 minutes from Lexington, and that you could get at a pretty affordable rate to purchase a property that you could consider, a homestead property. One of those towns that we're going to be looking at today is Georgetown. And the population in Georgetown is around 40,000 people. So it is much, much smaller than living in Lexington. And we're going to be looking at a couple properties there. It's very close to shops and local markets. We've discussed the schools there, but they do have some private schools and homeschool groups there, and it is about 30 minutes into Lexington. Another town that we're going to be checking out today is Richmond, which is Madison County. And when I checked the population there, it's about 38,000 people there, so about the same. It is a college town, so there's lots and lots of things to do there. Nice sized town with some box stores and really close to hospitals and local doctors' offices. The third town that we're going to take a look at is Frankfort, and the population there, even though it is the capital of Kentucky, it is much smaller at about 27,000. So it is close also to Lexington and does have some doctor's offices. We do have some, let's see, Norton's Healthcare is here as well as Baptist. So if doctor's offices and being close is important to you, then that area might be good as well. But as far as having any level 1 trauma centers, that is really going to be, you're going to have to get into Lexington to really be able to have access to that. So it would be about a 25 to 35 minute drive depending on which one of those towns that you decided on.
Now let's take a closer look at a few of the towns with some of these properties that have 5+ acres with a house. Some of them have a barn. Let's see what's available in this area that's within 25 to 35 minutes of Lexington. We're going to jump into my computer so we can get an overview of where Lexington is and where these properties are just outside of Lexington. And quite often when we're looking at different area codes and zip codes, but in today's video, we want to really focus on properties that are 5 acres or more just outside of the Lexington area. So you can see here on my screen where Lexington is, and then we're going to zoom out a little bit so you can get an idea of the properties that we're going to look at today. Now, the first property we're going to look at is over here on the north side of Lexington. Now, we're going to try to see if we can just take a look here on the map, kind of just give you an overview of this property. Now, this tract of land is about probably 5 minutes from downtown Frankfort. I'm going to get over here to my MLS so we can look at this property. Now, it does have a mobile home that's on the property right now, and this mobile home is about 1,200 square feet, but this property has about 63 acres. And I wanted to show it to you because sometimes people want to move into the Lexington area here in the central Kentucky area, and they want to be able to build like a homestead, or they want multi-generational living. So let's take a look here at some of this property. Now, this property does have room for multiple home building sites. It is a beautiful, the land here is beautiful. Like I said, just about 35 minutes or so from Lexington, you can be at this property. There is an old home site here, so you may want to tear that property down, or you may want to tear down that old property site and build a new house there. But there is room for multiple homes on this property. So let's get out of this one and let's take a look here at our next property that I wanted to show you. Now, this property is also in Frankfort, and I don't think I told you what the price was. Let's see. That first property that we looked at, the price on that, and that's why I wanted to show it to you. It was a really good buy, just because it doesn't really have a main house on it. It does have that mobile home on it, but with 63 acres, that property is listed right at $450,000. And so that, as I showed you on the map, is right in the northern part of Franklin County. Let's see if we can kind of zoom in, and you can see here on my map where Lexington is, and you can see where this property is that we just looked at. It's this one right here. So it's just north of Frankfort. And now the second one that we're going to look at is to the west of Frankfort. So maybe if you're working in Louisville or Shelbyville or Frankfort, this would be an ideal location. This is also about 35 to 40-minute drive into Lexington. And let's see if we can kind of take a look at it on our Google Maps. I'm not sure how much of the property it's going to show us, but looks like that's all we're going to get. So let me go over here to my MLS and let me pull it up. I want to just show you some of the pictures of this property. Now, this property is about 15 acres, and it does have a very unique home on this tract of land, just in a really remote kind of area. But you could be into Frankfort in about probably 10 minutes maybe or so to get into Frankfort. Now I want to see if I can scroll past these pictures here. I want to really focus on what it looks like on the outside. It does have an in-ground pool, but let's take a look at some of these outside photos here. It does have a new log cabin that's been put on the property, but I wanted to show you some of these outside pictures. Just a stunning property. And checking with the PVA and the planning and zoning here, you have to have about 1.5 acres here to be able to add additional homes, but you could do that on this property. Now, I wanted to let you know, now this property is listed at 1.2 million. So if this is something that you'd be interested in seeing, please be sure to reach out to us. Give us a call, send us a text or an email. We'd be happy to get you in to see properties like this. If you're wanting to build, maybe a homestead where you have some cattle, you want goats and sheep and, pigs, whatever things you want, chickens, this property would be able to allow those kinds of things. Now, the next property we want to look at is here just to the north of Lexington. As you can see on my map here, here's Lexington. So we're going to look at these two properties up here in Stamping Ground, which is just to the north of Georgetown, kind of to the north, west here of Georgetown. We're going to look at this one first. Okay, well, it's not going to let us look at it. So let's go over here and look at it on my MLS. Now, this property is priced at $650,000. It is on a 5-acre tract. But I want to give you kind of an overview of this property. Now, it's really nice. It does have an in-ground pool. It has the fencing all the way around. It has a really nice house on this lot. Now, this is about 25 to 30 minutes into Lexington, probably about 15 to 18 minutes into Frankfort. Now there, that kind of gives you an overview. You see your neighbors over here. So if you're thinking about getting out of a neighborhood and you really want to get more acreage, this would be the property for you. Now the next one we want to look at is not too far off from that property. So let's take a look at it on our map. This is also in the Stamping Ground area. Let's see if we can kind of zoom out. You can see that it has a large front yard, and it does have this road frontage here. But you can see there are really no neighbors around. So if you're wanting something that's really out of town but not far from town, this would be a great property. So let's jump over here into my MLS and let's see if we can look at the details. Now here we are on the outside of the property. And it looks like they do have some fencing. Maybe they have a dog or something, but it does have some fencing in this little outdoor area. We don't really have a good outside picture of the lot, but let me give you a little bit of detail about this. This property is listed $90,000. It's just a little over 6 acres, and it has a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house on this property. So let's get back over here to our map. And let's look at this property here. And you can see it does have a really large front yard, really nice driveway. Looks like it's very well landscaped. You can see that, yes, across the street there is a neighbor, another farm over there, the barn. Can you imagine getting up in the morning and seeing the horses out in the field across the street? Just kind of zooming in here on this Google Maps. Now this property is located in Georgetown. Let's see if we can kind of see where it is on our map. It is right here to the west of Georgetown. You can see Georgetown right here. Georgetown right here where my cursor is, just north of Lexington. And this property is just here, on the eastern side of Georgetown. Now, if you're working maybe in the Toyota area, this would be a great location for you. Now, let's get over here to our MLS, and I want to show you a little bit about this property. Now, it's priced at $573,000. It has a 3-bedroom, 2 full bath house, and it's 5.45 acres. So let's take a look at some of the photos here. Really nice brick home, very well landscaped. Let's see if we can see some outdoor pictures here. Very nicely landscaped, got a fire pit. You can see that it does have some fencing in the background. There's our overhead view. You can kind of see that there are neighbors, but because you've got like 5.5 acres, you can tell that this property goes, you can see that it goes back quite a way. So that gives you a lot of land, really, that's on your own. You could have chickens and, just be a mini farm there. And that property is listed at, like I said, $573,000 just north of Lexington. Now let's get back over here to our map. And we've kind of looked at all of these that are just north of Lexington, but we've got a couple down here in the Richmond area that I wanted to show you. And as you can see, it's just south. If you get on I-75 and you take it south, it's about 35 minutes or so south of Lexington, but real close to the interstate, so it would make travel down to this area pretty quick. Let's see if we can click here and take a look at our property we want to see here on our Google map. Now this is, a very rural area here, rural. It's very hard to say. R-U-R-A-L, rural area. I want to spin you around just to let you see what's around this area. And then we're going to go over here to my MLS and we're going to take a look. Looks like it's an older home. It's been well taken care of. Can you imagine sitting out on the porch, drinking some sweet tea, checking out that beautiful view? I wanted to see if we can get over here. Does show the back of the house. It's got a pool. That's the inside with the kitchen. Now let's look at some of the details on this house. It is just under 1,900 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. It is in Madison County, which is Richmond, and the sellers are doing some upgrades still to the house. So this property is listed at $487,500, and it is just a little over 5 acres. So if this would be something that you'd be interested in, be sure to reach out to us. Let us put you on a subscription list. If you're wanting to have some chickens or maybe, a couple cows, sheep, whatever, this would be the perfect property for that. Now let's check out the last property that's on our list. And it is also here in the Madison County. I want to see if we can kind of take a look at it. Now, you can get a good look at this one. Looks like they've painted the brick. It's got a large 2-car detached garage. You can see it's just on a small county road. This is probably also about 35 minutes into Lexington, but not far off the interstate, so it wouldn't take you long to get over there. Let's go over to our MLS and take a look at some of these pictures. Now, this one is priced at $599. And it's about 8 acres. So let's look a little bit here at our overview picture. You can see that it is wooded there toward the back, but goodness, it's got so many buildings and different things that you could use. I see that it's got, this detached 2-car garage, a small shed. It's got this shed barn and then a big barn here at the back. It's got this above ground pool right here in just a beautiful area of Madison County. Now, this property again is priced at $599 and it's about 8 acres. So we've been able to really look at lots of different places here on our map, and so if you're thinking about getting out of the city, maybe you're moving in from another state and you really just want to, have some space to spread out, this would be the place for you. So looking into some of these properties, 5 acres or more, we've looked at properties anywhere from, in the 400s all the way up to 1.2 million. And there's lots of other places in between. So be sure to reach out to us. Give me a call, send me a text or an email. We'd be happy to put you on a subscription list so you can be aware of all the new things coming on the market here in the Central Kentucky area. Moving to the country isn't just about a change of address, it's really about a change in lifestyle. And more people are wanting to get out of the city, get out of these larger towns, and they really want to get into the country. So if you're thinking about that better lifestyle, reach out to us. Central Kentucky might be just the thing that you've been looking for.
If you saw a property today during any of our tours through our Google Maps that you'd be interested in, be sure to reach out to us, give us a call, send us a text or an email. We'd be happy to help you be able to make the smooth move here into the Lexington area or any of the surrounding counties all the way around Lexington. We'd love to help you find that perfect country home that would suit you here in the Central Kentucky area. And until next time, I hope to see you around town.